All right, good evening everyone. System Chalk here with the 167th episode of Book of Hours, playing as the artist and knocking down rooms, or rebuilding rooms, depending on your perspective, knocking them off our to-do list in Hush House. So, we've been working on getting Mr. Kill up to 13 Winter to be able to open the crystallized chamber. We more or less have that in the bag. What we're going to do now, I think actually I will take the time to catalog a couple of these books. So this is a Dawn Period book. This book was probably written around the time of Hush House's Dawn Period, sometime before the end of the first millennium, commonly reckoned. If I examine it, I can learn more about what knowledge it might contain. So I am back to the habit of reading these only one at a time, just given the way that curses work to transmit afflictions work to transmit their curses to the objects. There isn't really the advantage to being cursed. Well, there's a couple of things that make curses kind of useful, particularly in my case where I am a little tight-fisted as far as the elements of the soul go. But in general, taking things one at a time is a better strategy for me now. Okay, with Keeper level Knock, Glassfinger Toxin is a precursor to the Sacramentacite, so we'll use that to replace the existing here. And then drop water. A little water splashes on the stones of the well to nourish the mosses there. So I can restore all of these things at the Sweet Bones. The other thing that I can do is I can use laundry to restore it, and that'll give me something that I can spend the money on, although I'm not sure that's the best way for me to use my money, because using up the Sweet Bones that way also means that I'm not able to generate money. Now, again, this is... I've talked with this a couple of times with people. This isn't really a new idea about Book of Hours, but I do think it's kind of interesting about how the relationship with money works. So in Cultist Simulator, you have a character who... you have a book where it kind of talks about common traits among people who ascend. And I think one of the things it refers to is that generally they're wealthy. And you can kind of see how in Cultist Simulator, like at the start, money is really important. You know, most commonly you'll lose the game either to a, getting sick or running out of money and not being able to pay rent, which then maybe makes you sick and so on. Like there's a few different ways that you hit the same fate. And it all kind of winds up tying to money. So you don't want to be indifferent about it. And certainly there are a lot of people who kind of complain about the grind in the game. And often when they refer to the grind, they're actually specifically talking about going to work, although there are other cases when people refer to grind. I'm not in that category. I tend to think that the view is overstated, but no need to relitigate that in this moment here. But what I think is kind of interesting is once you know how to do it, and this is why I think sometimes the grind complaint, at least as far as work is concerned, is a bit overstated, is that you usually wind up with a lot more money than you actually need in Cultist Simulator. Now, Book of Hours is a much gentler game, so there aren't things that will... those aren't things that are going to determine whether you win or lose in this. But you similarly find yourself with a large amount of money. You're probably less compelled to go work at the Sweet Bones. I kind of do that just for want of other things to do with my elements of the soul. But you kind of wind up in a very similar situation to the character in Cultist Simulator, but for very different reasons. So basically what I'm trying to say is that Thyrza Blake had no reason for the house to go bankrupt. I think I was trying to figure out where to put the encircling tantra, but I think I know where it needs to go, and I just don't want to I don't want to admit it because of the work that will be involved. All right. So we've got the Larkabine Codex. Christopher Larkabis claimed to have purchased two handwritten copies of the Codex from a family of witches on the shores of the Sea of Marmara. A third was given to the sea. No curses. And it will give us sea stories. So I can afford to use... Now, actually, one thing I might want to think about is the... So Moon and Rose will... So it doesn't matter between the Trist and the Fet. So I'll use the Fet in this case. We won't read this until tomorrow, but doesn't mean we can't get a head start on all of these things. Now, I suppose there's a reasonable question in terms of what am I going to do with these memories that I'm getting Mr. Kill to generate? There's always the argument that I can save one, but that doesn't, that only goes so far. It might be wiser for me to ask, what am I going to do with my elements of the soul? So we've got my core back. Sacramentacite, in the name of the two blades that are one of the threshold which has two sides. I'm a little interested in this one for the simple reason that I have knocked down my shaft. So I think the first thing that I'll do here is I'll bring that back at the Sweet Bones. It is summer. I am sitting on the bench outside the Sweet Bones, eating crumbly cheese and nettle wrappings and good black rye bread, soaking up the sun. Okay, but the real question I have here is if I wanted to try and turn one of the glassfinger toxins into a sacrament ascite. So let's say, just for the sake of the argument, I wanted to use the Trist here. So I'm short 2. I suppose... I guess I already used up a moth orchid. Yeah, this is interesting. So I guess the question is, how likely do I think it is for me to get a knock memory from Mr. Kill? I actually don't think that's very likely, so let's go for that here. But let's also see if I can maybe pick another moth orchid. Yep, moth orchids in spring and summer, honey scar jasmine in autumn. So the gardens of Hush House hold plants with many virtues for those with the wisdom to recognize them. And with that in mind, let's go... We will do beachcombing at Crow Cross Sands. We did just read this, so I'm going to leave that aside. Down to the Grushans. I think I can afford to talk to Mr. Kill a little bit more. And have an idea of this book's nature and its contents. De Bellis Murorum, good for Disciplines of the Scar, no curses on it. Weirdly enough, it's a Curia period book. Actually, yeah, okay. Maybe we're out of Dawn period books? That can't be right. Anyway, definitely gives me something to work on in the new season. So I think I have a pretty clear idea in terms of how I'm going to spend autumn and winter. So now would not be a bad time for me to reorganize the library. So I guess the question here is, do I want to try and make some sort of overflow shelf? There is an argument here. Actually, here's an interesting idea. Okay, so if I take the unhatched hymns and I make an overflow for fear, shucks. Okay, I'm going to move the Beguiling Melodies to... Oh, interesting. I already decided that Patterns got their own overflow shelf. Okay. Well, it's going to be a similar idea, but I'm going to do something a little more permanent. I'm feeling a little nervous about the order in which I'm moving these things, but I think this works out. Okay. Okay, so we still have the problem with the fear, but what I'm going to do here, I'll say Wind's Ruin fits in here. Okay. So there's the Beguiling Melodies. I'm going to move... so this is Savage Hymns. Alright, that's a start at least. Looks a little untidy, but I don't think there's a way that I can cram 2 books on those shelves. I do wish I had a better way of handling the regret, but I just don't quite see how I'm going to make this all work in the library. There might be some way that I can sort of put regrets here and then distribute the rest of these, but although that shouldn't be there anymore. This one, Voyages of Furnish and Evorial, is Salt. So, I mean, that's a pretty good candidate. Hang on, if we've got 4 here. Okay, I wasn't planning on doing this, but... let's actually do some proper rearranging. Okay, so I've got a shelf that'll take 5. Good with confounding parables. Let's say So the logic that I've got here is that this is a pretty, like, this, I've got better uses for this shelf space with the stolen secrets. So I'm thinking we'll make a salt shelf. And the question to me right now is there a better candidate? Like, so for instance, yeah, actually, you know what? Let's just put the regret shelf here. Or not. Oh, keep the snake in the pocket. Okay, so these are regrets. Move them all over. This is the moment I've been threatening. I have no idea if library organization is all that interesting for people to watch, but this is where we are now. Okay, so from there, stolen secrets take 4 spots. So I'm thinking here this becomes the salt shelf, for now at least. Now, technically, I could just fit the... I wonder if there's a bigger shelf that I can fit all these into. So I'm trying to think about how I might be able to break up this this sort of surplus shelf. I don't think I can do that quite yet. It would be nice if I had a way of getting that foresight overflow dealt with. But you know what? This isn't... I'm not unhappy with how this is working right now. I'm probably going to trip up a little bit in terms of remembering where everything is, but there's basically there are fewer weird exceptions in the library right now. Right, dead men don't tell no bloody tales. Well, who'd listen? So I'm going to be careful in terms of how I'm using my elements of the soul moving forward. I think the best I can hope for here is to make another glassfinger toxin. better now. I may need to pour a glass of water, but I'm thinking so... Oh, wait, but I can't... Right. Yeah, so this I can't use at all. But door and... Right, it was door and wall that did the trick. So, yes, we will pour another glass of water. Serve appropriately. Pour out. Poured out. And I actually did forget that it was amethyst ampules that I was using previously. Anyways, no big deal. Brew a bright and lethal knock toxin. Might not be a bad idea for me to think about bringing Mr. Kill. You know what? I will bring back something to earn some money with, just because it feels a little bad to have the sweet bones wasted. But I don't think we have that much else to do over the course of the day. I did wind up giving a few items, but again, I've been hoarding a whole lot, so it's not that great of a hardship to have some item or to give up some items. Okay, a curious seashell. Brankrug is said to lie in the bounds where the world ends. Odd creatures have made their dying way to the beach. And moth orchid is soft as velvet to the touch, except when it changes. Okay, so we want to find some places to store that. I think the time has come for us to open up the crystallized chamber. So my path is blocked by shining surfaces like curdled light. Dark shapes shift beneath. We can tap away at the crystal if we're careful, but we must be careful. So we'll have that before the end of the day. Let's put the moth orchid here. And then the seashell, we're getting quite the collection here. But until I find better uses, we'll stick with that. Alright, so this would normally be the hurry everything up call, but honestly, the only thing we really need to wait for right now is the heart. In fact, the other thing that I could do is just go back to Crowcross Sands. In the name of the two blades that are one, of the threshold which has two sides. So we're not done generating sacramentacite yet, although I am running out of shelf space, so... There's going to be a little bit of a competition for Timothy's attention in the next little while, I think, but we'll make it work. But yeah, so the question here, given we've got a little bit more than a minute... Actually, you know what? I think the worst thing I can do right now is just earn some more money. I don't need it. So let's use the core to go beachcombing instead. Well, the alternative would have been another moth orchid, because that definitely is helpful for some of the other things that I'm doing right now. And I think some amethyst ampules would not go amiss. But I have some other uses for the sand too. Deeper level knock, glass finger toxin is the precursor of the sacramentacite. So we're doing well in terms of stocking up on some items. There's a few other things that I'd kind of like. So, you know, some more. We've got 2 Ichor Vitreous, we've got 2 Xanthotic Essence, but we only have 1 Ichor Auroral, which would be kind of nice to work on. Okay. So... there's something special about this room. We're not going to go into it today, but some of you may get some ideas based on what you see in here. So the Rowenarium. Once there was a brother and sister who loved each other greatly. They resolved that they were one soul split into 2 bodies, and their greatest wish was to become one. They found the hidden isle where the twins, the sister and witch, had arrived when they crossed the great ocean, and a sacred pool on which the moon shone only once a year. There they spoke with the twins in dreams, and they learnt how they might become conjoined as one flesh and immortal. Now the brother's resolution failed her, and though he loved his sister, he could not choose to spend an eternity joined in one flesh. The sister could not persuade him, and she would not abandon him or force him, so they used their arts to live long lives, close but separate, and they made a double foundation of monks and nuns, as chaste as they had always been. But each nun had her brother twin, and none could enter alone. In time, the sister found her own immortality, and to this day she walks the world by moonlight. The brother died, and his bones are buried in the room beneath the well, but his children live on. So here we have a sealed vault. That's either 14 Grail or 14 Knock, so both are quite achievable for us. 14 Knock or 14 Scale, and then 16 Edge or 16 Knock. So for that, and then we also have the Perilous Path, but we're not going to be accessing that. So first of all, interesting lore. Inside the room, we only have really one object, the altar, the Rowenarium. Rowena the Legion, protectress of the house, holds the mayor's key of Wormstone, which opens the door to nowhere. Now and then she has lent it unwisely, but only once has she lent it to ease. So we're going to be working on some, actually probably Knock and Grail moving forward, seeing as we do have the option for a Grail sealed vault. And it's actually kind of nice because I'll be able to kind of combine both Mrs. Kill and Reverend Timothy. In fact, just to prepare that, I know we're getting close to the end of the day, so I'm going to, and at the end of the session for that matter, so I'm going to take a quick second here. I'm actually going to work out the Knock formula. So we'll take Reverend Timothy. He starts with 1 there. So then we use Shopped. So there's 2 there. That brings us up to 3. I want to make sure I've got the right values in place for... Okay, so this is the Newman. So that's worth 5. So we'll start with the 1, then we move up to 3. With the memory, we're up to 8. We do not have a Knock tool. So from there, we would go for the drink, which is worth 6. Which brings us up to 14. And let me just double check I've got this right. So 14 would get us to this sealed vault and this sealed vault, but not this sealed vault. We would need another 2. So for that, we have 2 options. We can use a candle. So I believe that would be a moth orchid scented candle would be 1. And then do we have any Knock food? I don't think... Well, apparently there is, but it's the cuckoo honey, which isn't enough for us. So yeah, basically I'm looking for the candle. That would bring us up to 16. Okay. And then with Mrs. Kill, so Newman would take us, she starts with 2, Newman would take us up to 5, which is 7, Spice Scales takes us up to 8, Arab Plus takes us up to 11, Ruby Wise Ruin takes us up to 15. We only need 14 though. So if I went for, I'm just trying to think how I might be able to angle this a little bit more in my favor. So I don't want to give up the jam here just because that has a rose component to it as well. I can't be too liberal with the... there's got to be a Grail food. Basket of apples. Okay, notoriously hard just to take one bite. Oh, interesting. So I'm thinking maybe what I want to do here... I guess the important thing to note is that I have what I need to accomplish what I'm looking for. But what I might want to do is see if there is a way for me to get a more grail-oriented item. So for instance, like it's... Oh yeah, this bowl of sea blessed pears. Yeah, so what I can do, instead of giving up a ruby-wise ruin, I can use a witching to sane. Let me actually write this down. That brings me up to 13, and then that brings me up to 14. Now, there is an interesting question as to whether or not I have enough time to do all this. So with Reverend Timothy, we would talk to him with the shaft. That would be, I believe, 30 seconds. The memory would be 30 seconds. The drink would be 30 seconds. And the well, we don't need to do the candle. So that's 90 seconds for Timothy. With Mrs. Kill, it would be Newman, Spice Scales, Arab to Sane, Pears. Interesting. So that's 150 seconds. Is that right? 30, 60, 90, 120, 150, yeah. We can get through 2 minutes, yeah. All right. Then, yeah, we may actually try to open 2 rooms next week. So Reverend Timothy, or sorry, Mrs. Kill working on the sealed vault, Reverend Timothy working on the second sealed vault, and then eventually he'll work on the third. Of course, combined with that, we will also be working on some of these texts. There's absolutely no rush for me to open up any of these rooms, right? So maybe I want to say the first priority will be to read the relevant texts. Either way, though, I have plenty of work that I can do. And then, like I said, there is actually something special about the Rowenarium, which we will be following up on before too long. I'm just going to do a quick look over the house. So in terms of special things that I want to do and follow up on, I think I count 2. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's just 2 with the current situation that I have. But all of that will be handled in a future episode. Thank you very much for watching. I am looking forward to showing the last 3 of the house proper. And then, of course, doesn't mean that there aren't interesting things inside the chamber. It's just worth remembering that this is a dawn period room, whereas these have the... I guess it doesn't say, but if you take a look at the colors, these are Curia periods. So, I think, yeah. Or I guess the unopened rooms don't flat. Well, we can check that, actually. So this would be baronial. There's a Curia one. Yep. So there you have it. So yeah, in terms of dawn period secrets. Oh, wait, this isn't dawn period. What is this? Oh, this is outside. Right. Anyways, we have a few more things to take a look at, which I'm looking forward, at least, to seeing how people react to them. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and I look forward to seeing you Monday for more Book of Hours. Until then, take care.